$250,000. That is the colossal hook right out of the gate. Before we even get into the wilderness or the people or the crazy rules of the game, the creator anchors us with a genuinely life-changing sum of money. It immediately elevates the stakes, right? It goes from a simple outdoor camping challenge to this intense, high-stakes psychological thriller. Because it forces you to instantly imagine what you would do with that kind of cash. And honestly, once you've pictured that, you are completely locked in.
And that brings us to the core thesis of this entire massive undertaking. The creator poses this really fascinating question right in the description: what wins in a battle of survival, knowledge or resources? This perfectly sets up the fact that the best digital content isn't just a random stunt. It's explicitly framed as an experiment that we get to watch unfold. Framing it as a test of human nature makes it infinitely more compelling than just, watching people camp in the woods. It shifts us from being passive observers to active participants, making us automatically wonder how we ourselves would handle that exact situation. And that psychological engagement, that is exactly what drives massive audience retention.
So, to really understand how this phenomenon operates, we've broken it down into 5 key parts. We're going to cover the ultimate survival hook, knowledge versus resources, the business of viral philanthropy, 12 hours of explosive metrics, and finally, the extreme challenge ecosystem.
Let's jump straight into part 1, the ultimate survival hook.
Notice the exact phrasing used here. I stranded 100 people in the wilderness for $250,000. It's highly active, it's super extreme, and most importantly, it highlights massive scale. I mean, stranding one person? That's a documentary. Stranding 100 people? That is a logistical marvel and a completely chaotic social experiment. Just think about the sheer ambition required to pull this off. You have to safely coordinate, film, and manage 100 totally distinct personalities in a remote, unforgiving location. That level of logistical nightmare creates this sense of awe before the whole thing even starts. The sheer magnitude of the promise forces people to click simply because they have to see if the creator actually pulled it off without everything falling apart.
Which brings us right into part 2 of our analysis: knowledge versus resources.
What's genuinely fascinating here is the psychological bait and switch they pulled on the contestants themselves. According to the source data, these survivalists were told they'd simply be in a standard, quote-unquote, Mr. Beast survival video, so they packed their bags expecting a specific baseline of comfort. They probably figured, sure, there'll be some wacky challenges, but we'll probably get decent food, a warm place to sleep, maybe some regular breaks. But the reality? Oh, it was vastly different. They were stripped of those expectations the literal second they arrived, which threw them instantly off balance and cranked the tension up to 11 from minute 1.
Because the reality of their situation was stark. They were handed a shockingly limited amount of gear. We're talking basic rations of rice and beans, a little bit of fishing gear, some first aid kits, and a few tarps. That's the whole shebang, for 100 people. Just imagine trying to stretch those meager provisions across a giant crowd of hungry, tired, stressed-out individuals. This forced scarcity pushes that whole knowledge versus resources premise into absolute overdrive. By depriving people of modern conveniences and standard supplies, the creator mathematically guarantees dramatic tension and organic conflict. You don't even need a script when you take away people's food and shelter. Human nature is going to provide all the entertainment the viewer could possibly ask for.
Okay, let's transition over to part 3, the business of viral philanthropy. Because, let's be real, an operation this massive requires some serious capital to actually get off the ground.
To wrap our heads around this scale, we have to look at the financial engine powering it. You have this ultimate prize, a staggering $250,000, which serves as the main magnet for both the contestants and the viewers. But how do you fund that? And to the sponsor, Bass Pro Shops. They strategically stepped in to provide the gear, integrating their brand totally seamlessly into the outdoor survival theme. So it doesn't feel like a jarring commercial break. It's actually part of the narrative. And then layered on top of all this high-stakes entertainment is actual philanthropy. The source notes a direct contribution of cash going toward a chosen wish. This is a phenomenally brilliant strategic move. Integrating philanthropy acts like a shield. It prevents this massive brand deal from feeling too corporate or greedy. It creates this powerful win-win-win. The brand gets unparalleled organic exposure, the spectacle generates immense viewership, and the proceeds fuel both massive life-changing prizes and real-world charitable acts. Make no mistake, this is a highly sophisticated economic engine disguised as a fun internet challenge.
And yet, right in the middle of this highly sophisticated business and philanthropic structure, we find this absolute gem buried in the description: subscribe or I take your dog. I love this because it highlights the creator's distinct voice beautifully. It perfectly balances the serious, high-stakes nature of the challenge with just absurd, quintessential internet humor. It's exactly the kind of jarring, funny threat that you'd expect a friend to text you, not a major production studio. It reminds the audience that despite the massive Hollywood-level budgets, the insane logistics, and the high-end corporate deals, this is still native creator culture at its core. It keeps the relationship with the audience feeling grounded and personal.
Which leads us directly into part 4, 12 hours of explosive metrics, because this is where the sheer numbers get truly mind-blowing.
The data snapshot we're analyzing was captured exactly 12 hours after the upload on May 2nd, 2026. What we are looking at is essentially the immediate, real-time shockwave of a massive digital event. Now, why does such a tight, specific window of time even matter? Well, in the digital ecosystem, those first 12 to 24 hours are the critical velocity window. This is the make or break period that determines if an algorithm is going to push a piece of media beyond a creator's core audience and out to the broader, non-subscribed public. Extremely high performance in this narrow time frame is literally the rocket fuel required for true unstoppable virality.
And this tight window of time resulted in an almost unimaginable scale of attention. In just 12 hours, this single piece of media generated over 20.1 million views and 824,000 likes. Just let that sink in for a second. There are entire television networks that would throw a party over those numbers for a whole season of a show, and this was achieved in half a day. It perfectly demonstrates the compounding power of a massive hook, a super clear premise, and a highly engaged subscriber base pushing the algorithm into absolute overdrive to hit that critical escape velocity we just talked about.
Now, let's move into part 5, the Extreme Challenge ecosystem, and see how this all connects to wider platform trends.
Because a massive launch like this doesn't exist in a vacuum, right? It lives alongside its peers. When we look at the surrounding content landscape on the sidebar during the specific launch, a really clear pattern emerges. It's sitting right alongside heavy hitters in science, sports, and engineering. We're talking creators like Veritasium, Dude Perfect, and Crunch Labs. This is a huge insight. It proves that the audience for Extreme Survival isn't just looking for cheap reality TV drama. They are heavily cross-pollinated with viewers who legitimately enjoy science, engineering, and physical feats. Why? Well, because this audience appreciates the engineering aspect of building these massive, complex sets and the serious logistical problem-solving required to actually pull them off. It's a calculated, highly retained demographic of naturally curious people.
And when we look a little closer at the creator's own suggested backlog, the scale of this ecosystem becomes even clearer. We see similar intense formats, like Survive 30 Days Trapped in the Sky went $250,000, which was sitting at a staggering 180 million views from just 4 months prior.
Right beneath that, there's Survive 100 Days in Nuclear Bunker, win $500,000, pulling in an unbelievable 353 million views over the past year. The stakes, the money, and the environments, they just keep getting more extreme and way more claustrophobic.
And here's another one. Survive 100 Days in Prison, win $500,000. What this tells us is that this isolated wilderness event we are analyzing today, it's not some one-off stroke of luck. It is part of a highly repeatable, highly calibrated, and incredibly successful formula that is absolutely dominating the digital landscape right now.
Which brings us to a really clear definition of what we can call the creator formula. It's the meticulous, calculated combination of high-stakes cash prizes, extreme isolated environments, and strategic brand integrations. When you synthesize those three elements together, you create the ultimate attention-grabbing engine. This specific formula is exactly what elevates this kind of content from lucky, lightning-in-a-bottle virality to actual industrial-scale predictability. It's a proven system capable of generating tens of millions of engagements in mere hours, time and time again. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to bring you right back to that core premise that started this whole thing. What wins in a battle of survival, knowledge or resources? After seeing the massive scale of this operation, the meager supplies of literally just tarps and beans, and a life-altering $250,000 on the line, how do you honestly think you would fare out there? Would your knowledge end up saving you, or would the utter lack of resources eventually break you? It's a pretty fascinating thought experiment, isn't it? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, stay focused, and I'll catch you in the next one.